Hospitals have been receiving an increasing number of COVID patients as the number of infections have gone up in recent days. ICUs are fast filling and many have been put in ventilator support, raising the call on the members of general public to adopt maximum precaution to avoid another COVID crisis. Good evening, I'm Sarah Sapsanama. Let's begin with the headlines of the hour. Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal says the government's top priority is to give momentum to the country's economy, adds government is preparing for relevant programs for the next fiscal. COVID cases on the rise in the country. Health experts urge members of public to adopt maximum precautions as hospitals receive increasing number of patients. Myanmar's military launches airstrikes on a central town known to be a bastion of opposition to the coup. Dozens reported dead. And it's Manchester City up against Bayern Munich at Etihad tonight in the first leg of Champions League quarter-final. Match to kick off at 45 minutes past midnight. Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal has said the government's top priority will now be on giving momentum to the country's economy. Speaking at the 57th Annual General Assembly of the Federation of Nepalese Chamber of Commerce and Industries, FNCCI, in the capital, Premier Dahal said the government led by him has been focusing on improving the national economy. Dahal added that the government was in talks with concerned units to address liquidity crisis, the slump in revenue collection and the demands made by businesses to reduce interest rates. Premier Dahal said the economic indicators in the past few months showed a positive trend and that the economy would only improve in the days to come in reference to the fears of an economic crisis.
कार्यक्रम तथा बजेटमा उत्पादन र निर्माणमा केही ठूला केही नयाँ र केही गुणात्मक प्रकृतिका योजनाहरू अगाडि बढाउने तयारीमा छ। यसले मात्र निराशाको सामना गरिरहेको अर्थतन्त्रमा नयाँ आशा, ऊर्जा र गति ल्याउन सकिन्छ भन्ने मेरो विश्वास छ।
Premier Dahal also took the platform to appreciate private sector's contributions to the economy. The FNCCI is electing its new leadership as it has already selected 4 out of 64 members. Voting for the 60 of the remaining posts will be held tomorrow. A total of 115 candidates are in the fray for various positions, including Senior Vice President. Umesh Lal Shrestha, Anjan Shrestha and Ramchandra Shanghai are in the fray for the post of Vice President, the winner of which will be based on the FNCCI regulations, will automatically in fact be appointed as the Federation's President. Now, with the rise in number of coronavirus cases in Nepal, the number of COVID patients at intensive care units and ventilators have also increased. According to government data, 10 COVID patients are currently in ICUs, while 5 are on ventilator support. Hospital admission rate has been on the rise amid rising infection rate, majority of whom are elderly people and patients with chronic illnesses. The government, meanwhile, has urged all members of public to strictly follow preventive measures amid rising infections in neighboring India. Nepal reported 124 new COVID cases yesterday alone. The Epidemiology and Disease Control Division has warned of the possibility of further rise in infections. There are 444 active coronavirus infected individuals across the country as of late. The 3 major political parties have reached an agreement to make the bill related to transitional justice, among others, fair and suitable for everyone. The meeting of the 3 major political parties, along with Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal, that was called by Speaker Devraj Khimire, reached a consensus to make the bill related to transitional justice acceptable and relevant to everyone. The meeting dwelled on bills related to transitional justice, constitutional council and money laundering, among others. The government is making efforts to expedite the endorsement of the bill related to transitional justice. However, CP Nyemal has demanded the bill to be forwarded to the Parliamentary Committee. The Secretariat of Speaker Khimire has said that the meeting discussed the formation of Parliamentary Committee and its leadership, and has also informed that further discussions will be held at another meeting scheduled for Friday. The draft prepared by the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology regarding Telecommunications Act includes provision that allows government to record calls of any individual. The regulating body, Nepal Telecom, has termed it mandatory, while analysts say the move violates the rights of general public. Clause 77 of the draft mentions that the government can directly connect with the service provider to obtain call records of the concerned individuals and install relevant equipment. The police or government bodies will have the right to record calls made by any individual from their office. It has been mentioned in the draft that calls can be recorded if any individual is suspected of being involved in activities against the national interest and those involved in organized crimes and other criminal acts. The investigating body can identify the location of any individual through the network of the service provider. However, experts in this sector opine that the move violates privacy of the general public. Likewise, the draft proposes to deactivate mobile phones, telephone or any other means of communication of any suspect. Nepal Telecom had prepared the draft bill and forwarded it to the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology. The ministry has returned the bill to the Telecom for revision. Nepal Telecom claims that recording calls will contribute in investigations. Nepal Telecom had prepared the draft bill 4 years ago and submitted it to the government. The draft bill, however, has not been introduced for public debate. Experts say that clauses of the draft bill are against the constitutional right of privacy. Moving on, Judge of the Judicial Council, Bhuvan Giri, who has been accused of marital rape, has been arrested. The Kathmandu police arrested Judge Giri from Pavitra Nagar of capital's Gongabu. Kathmandu Police Chief Superintendent of Police Dan Bahadur Karki informed that procedures to send Giri to Kapilvastu have begun. The District Court Kapilvastu had issued an arrest warrant against Giri on 3rd of March last week. Giri's wife, Arati Giri Rawal, had filed a marital rape case against Giri at the District Police Office. Giri had been transferred to the Judicial Council in Kathmandu only a month ago. His second wife had been accusing him of marital rape for a long time. She has accused Giri of putting her under house arrest, physical violence and sexual violence and has demanded justice. She had filed the case against Giri at District Police Office in Kapilvastu in November-December last year. Now, the medical students have demonstrated, citing the Medical Education Commission, has begun admissions for postgraduate medical education against the order of merit. The students demonstrated in capital's Maithikar demanding admissions based on the order of merit. However, the vice chairperson of the commission, Sri Krishnagiri, has said that admission process based on the order of merit has been recommended as per the verdict of the Supreme Court. Welcome back. The Nepal Rashtra Bank has announced that the country's foreign currency reserves will be sufficient to import goods for the next 11 months. Publishing the report of the economic and commercial state of the country for the past 8 months, the central bank has announced that the country has foreign currency reserves amounting to more than 1,004 billion rupees. The government had announced or imposed a ban on luxury items amid decline in foreign exchange reserves last year. Likewise, the country has received remittance amounting to 794 billion rupees in the past 8 months, which is 25% higher than last fiscal year. Remittance has increased with the increase in the number of people opting for foreign employment. According to the central bank, the country's balance of payments stands at a surplus of 1.48 billion. Meanwhile, the country's trade has declined by 17%. According to the central bank, Nepal exported goods worth 1.04 billion rupees within the past 8 months, which is 29% less than that of the previous fiscal year. Likewise, imports have decreased by 19% this year, with goods worth 1,058 billion rupees being imported within the past 8 months. Import of automobiles, spare parts, medicines and raw soybean oil have also declined. The central bank has said that inflation rate has reached almost 8%. The food and beverage inflation stands at 5.54%, while non-food and service inflation stands at 8.87%. Moving on, the 9th National Summit of Health and Population Scientists, organized by Nepal Health Research Council, has kicked off from today. The 2-day summit will see health researchers working in different mediums in attendance along with policymakers. Speaking at the summit, Health Secretary Roshan Pokhrel emphasized on the need to establish research centers in all provinces. Tatopani border between Nepal and China has been closed for 5 days. According to the Tadopani Customs Office, the border point has been closed until the 15th of April to make preparations for its full-scale operation. The border point is being closed to make necessary arrangements for relocation of cargo. Local governments of both sides reached an agreement for the temporary halt of the border point. It's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
The question is, what should be done to curb the annual losses of lives and properties caused by fire? Your options are A. Ensure preparedness, B. Increase awareness, and C. Formulate required policies and regulations. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Let's move on to the international update. Myanmar's military has launched airstrikes on a central town known to be a bastion of opposition to the coup carried out 2 years ago. Witnesses and local media said dozens of people were killed and wounded in the attack today, one of the worst since the military seized control of the country. Citing residents in the Sagaing area, about 110 kilometers west of the main city Yangon, news reports said at least 30 people, including civilians, had died in the barrage on the town of Pazigi. The air raids occurred as residents gathered for the inauguration of an administrative office, Al Jazeera's Tony Cheng reported from Thailand's capital, Bangkok. No immediate response from Myanmar's military rulers was available. Myanmar's military has been accused of indiscriminate killings of civilians as it engages in major offensives to suppress armed resistance to its takeover. Last month, Myanmar's coup leader Min Aung Hlaing pledged to deal decisively with terrorists fighting against his rule. On February 1, 2021, the military toppled the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi, prompting peaceful protests that security forces suppressed with bloody violence that escalated since then and has been characterized by United Nations experts and others as a civil war. More than 1 million people have been displaced as the military steps up artillery attacks and air raids. A military spokesperson told Al Jazeera recently that previously reported attacks blamed on its forces have been misreported. Western countries have rolled out sanctions against the ruling generals in a bid to choke off revenue and access to military equipment from key allies and suppliers such as Russia. Now, Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen slammed China's military exercises as irresponsible for a major country and said they had caused instability in Taiwan and the region. She made the comments in a video message released today after Beijing ended 3 days of drills around the island. Tsai said that as president, she represented her country to the world and that her visits abroad, including stops in the US, are not new and what Taiwan's people expect. China began the war games on Saturday after Tsai returned to Taipei following a meeting in Los Angeles with US House of Representatives Speaker Kevin McCarthy. China, which warned the US not to allow Tsai to visit or meet McCarthy, has never renounced the use of force to bring the democratically governed island under Beijing's control. Taiwan's government strongly disputes China's claims and repeatedly denounced the drills. The Philippines and the United States militaries kicked off their annual joint exercises today in what officials say will be the biggest ever rehearsal of the drills. More than 17,000 Philippines and US soldiers will be participating in these year's Balikatan, soldier-to-soldier exercises, which will focus on enhancing maritime and coastal defenses, and the first time ever will hold live-fire drills at sea, according to statements made by the armed forces of the Philippines. The war games comes just after China ended 3 days of military exercises around the Taiwan Strait. During the drill's opening ceremony at the Philippine military headquarters, over 50 activists gathered outside to protest against the joint exercises between the two countries. The exercises have drawn criticisms from China's foreign ministry, which said last week that the US strengthening military deployment in the Philippines would only lead to more tension in the region after Manila in fact allowed Washington access to more of its bases. The war games, which will be carried out in different parts of the country, will also include training in the fields of amphibious and aviation operations, cyber defense, urban warfare, counter-terrorism and humanitarian and disaster relief, according to the armed forces of the Philippines. Cambodia has deported 19 Japanese nationals suspected of involvement in organized phone and online scams to Japan today. The Japanese nationals, all male, were detained in a police operation in the southern city of Sihanoukville in late January, Cambodia's Interior Ministry has said. They were then sent to the capital, Phnom Penh, where they were held until their deportation to Japan. A large police motorcade arrived at the international airport on Tuesday afternoon, after which the suspects were transferred for a police bus to a Malaysia Airlines flight which would fly them back to Japan. Cambodian National Police spokesperson Chai Kim Koen confirmed that all 19 suspects were on the flight to Japan. According to Japanese media reports, the Tokyo police had obtained arrest warrants for all 19 suspects. Cambodian media reported that the arrest warrants were issued after Japanese residents had been targeted by the scam operation. That is all for the moment. Our next English bulletin will air at 10:30 p.m. tonight. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.